Hey, what's up guys? Got another deck for you. We got today one of my favorite decks in the entire game with one of my favorite and probably my favorite Pansy MP right here, Dr. Wheelo. And, he's just been like, I don't know why. I guess I've always liked him. I liked him in the movie a lot, and then, kind of sucks playing him Riddick Tenkai G3, but I got the idea for this deck from playing in the DBZ Fusion format. And if you don't know what that is, so this game, Panini game, which is now Fanzy, was based off of the old retro game, and which was made by Score. And anyway, Dr. Wheelo had an MP set in that. And anyway, the Fusion format is a mixture of like these games together. They're kind of compatible. And Mischievous Mastery with his upper levels was just ridiculous, and his scoresy ones made it a little bit easier to level, and on top of the bunch of ridiculous anchor cards that I had, just being able to hit these upper levels a ton and use it with this mastery was just awesome. Like these two levels here both increase the amount that you destroy off your opponent's life deck whenever you use effects that destroy off your opponent's life deck. Well, that's what this mastery is all about. If you don't know what this mastery does here, whenever your opponent draws a card during combat, you start top of their life deck, and it also gives you anger. Well, his level 3, all of your destroy effects get increased by 1. And his 4, they all get increased by 2, and every time you destroy off their deck, you rejuvenate 2. So, a lot of synergy there. Now you just have to figure out how to get there, right? Well, I thought, why not use Unleashed? And that was the whole premise of the deck. On top of Unleashed and Anger, you just try to get up to these upper levels and run with the advantage. And honestly, it was started off as kind of a trolley deck. I ran this card called Android Presence, which you had to play a bunch of Android cards in your deck, and then you have to have so many in your pile and banish them to get 6 anger, which jumps you an MP level. And I eventually refined it down quite a bit. I ended up playing it in Michigan back in, I think it was May. And I ended up top 2ing that event. Kind of a surprise to me. But I actually did pretty decent. I ended up losing to Eric NG's Red Ascension Ball Trunks, which was a hard matchup. And since then, because of that matchup and other things, I've changed up the list quite a bit since then. So this is definitely not the original list. If you want to check out kind of some of the iterations of the list, I have a Facebook page, Dr. Wheelo's Lair, that you can go check out, that has had a few different posts of deck lists for Wheelo, if you are a big Wheelo fan. There'll be definitely more deck lists to come for him. But right now, I think Mischievous is, in my opinion, the best fit, and it's been the one I've had the most fun with. This is the second. I put this in my top 3 of decks that I've had the most fun with in the entire game, next to Protective Blue Wheelo and then Empowered Future Gohan. Those 3 decks are my favorite decks in this entire game. So anyway, being that I've played Wheelo since release, let's check out my favorite MP in the newest iteration of this deck. So this is what I think is kind of my best fit right now until I kind of do some more testing for the current meta. So I guess we'll just start off with the board cards here. Namek Ball 7, huge card in the deck. You destroy cards off your opponent's deck and top deck any cards that you want out of your discard pile. Super important to get powerful cards like Black Taunt, Unleash, Stare Down, Feeling Synergy Steer Back. Being able to play this against a Dragon Ball deck, being able to go grab your Sagacious Strikes, your Sinchokes, so you can stop them from balling out on you. Being able to grab more blocks against an aggro matchup. Just great card. No explanation, even though I did give it to you. It wasn't really needed for that. Plus it synergizes with your Destroy theme of your deck. You're just trying to just straight take cards off your opponent's deck. Black Absorption Drill, great card, did just get nerfed where you can only top deck styled cards with it, but whenever you destroy cards off your opponent's life deck, you get to take a card from your pile that's styled and top deck it. Super powerful, helps you recur stuff. I usually don't get too many procs on this, generally. I generally level a lot in this deck, but it is nice, even if you're sitting on it for just a turn or two, it is really nice. Very powerful drill, can help you quite a bit in a matchup. We have 1 Black Spineless Drill. Great card, gets you an extra card to keep at the end of your turn. We got Villainous Visage, another card that destroys off your opponent's life deck. This is whenever you take damage, you can bounce double back to your opponent whenever it's life card damage. Great card. It's absolutely vicious once you start getting up into 3 and 4. No matter what, it's an awesome card, and actually it helps you a ton against aggro decks. One thing to note is that Dr. Wheelo has very low power levels. As you can see, he's getting in B at his best on his level 4. Same with his level 3. His 1 and 2, he makes it to B on his top and 2, and his level 1 he's an A. So physical decks really, really hurt you, which is kind of an issue with playing him right now, as a lot of people are playing physical aggro. So Visage definitely gets a lot stronger with him because of that, but also it's kind of a reason not to necessarily try to play Wheelo in a competitive environment. He does very good against control decks, in my opinion, anger decks. I would say ball and physical aggro are his weak points. Next card we have here, Black Focus. So this is a card that can attach to MP. It's fuel for Unleashed over there, but also it synergizes really, really well with Sagacious Strike. Oops, gotta find it here. And Sinister Choke. So what it does, if you do manage to play it on the field first, and then attach it manually in an action, your next attack, if it deals crit damage, you draw a card. Well, Sinister Choke deals 5 life cards unpreventable if it hits, and Sagacious Strike can be made unstoppable to deal critical damage. So it's an extra way to maybe draw a card into combat, but otherwise it's just a one-of. The actual effect when it's attached doesn't really matter for our deck. We generally want to gain the anger that we're getting. Next we have Black Analysis. Now this is a card that not a lot of decks will play. I've only seen it ran in one other deck, and that was a Mischievous Cell that Ryan Lambden had. He ran it at a 1-of. I ran it at a 2. I had it at a 1 initially at Michigan. I ended up bumping up to 2. This card is one of the kind of the game finisher cards of the deck. If you can get up to like level 3 and 4 and pop this card off, you can start cleaning quite a bit of cards off your opponent's deck. Also, it does get rid of an opponent's setup, or potentially combos with your own setups, which I'll explain in a second here. It does suck that it does let your opponent draw a free card, but with the Mastery, they are losing cards off their deck when that happens, and it does synergize very well with your MP stack. It's very much a card that you use. You got to kind of wait for the right moment to use it. It's kind of a card that you're going to like go for the kill on your opponent, or you use it to counter specific cards that are going to hurt you in the matchup really hard. For example, Black Searching Technique is a card that completely destroys Wheelo, because he's able to pick out your key cards like the Unleashed and Dr. Wheelo's name card here, Revival, which I'll talk to that in a sec. But otherwise, you can also combo this with card with Dr. Wheelo's Revival, which, if you read it, when this card is destroyed or discarded from your life deck, destroy 3 cards from your opponent's life deck. So, if for some reason you didn't want to activate this card, which with its power it does go back into your life deck if you do read it, shuts off events too, which is a super, super powerful effect. This card, leading this card into combat, can destroy entire decks, like Black and Namekian especially. A lot of times against Orange Combative, or just these big Orange Adaptive decks that have Orange Destruction, Sphere Confros. You shut off all events. You make sure that you can pull off your Unleashed. It's extra protection. It's one of the reasons why Unleashed works so good with Wheelo, is because he has this card. But also, these cards you want in your deck, because starting the game, you have 3 of these. This automatically means that your opponent's going to lose at least 9 cards against you, just trying to hit you. The closer you get to the end of the game, and the more of these that are in there, the scarier it is for your opponent. You combo that card with things like Visage, it makes it very, very scary for your opponent to start hitting you. Black Analysis is really great though. Just if you do want to maybe threaten your opponent a bit, you can always top deck one of your Dr. Wheelo's Revivals with this card. There's another card, After Image Technique, which I've dabbled with that card in this deck. What that does is it searches your life deck for a name card and destroys it when it enters play, just to like do a quick like out of combat mill. I ended up not running that card, keeping it. It is like definitely a card that I always think about, but just something kind of similar to that, trying to play with Revival. We have Black Declaration. Now this is a card that is a newer edition that I've always tried to get in here, but I actually recently did a remake of this deck where I cut down to the core like 20 cards, and then I rebuilt from scratch, and I was able to fit this in. This card is awesome. This card allows us to recycle our ball 7 over here, on top of the fact that it is a board clear card, and Black has notoriously bad board clear. This is one of the few cards in the deck that can actually take a card off the table, and it gives you a lot of flexibility in what you get to get rid of. Awesome, awesome card. I have not regretted adding this. It took just way too long to get it in here. Black Signal is a card that I used to have at 3. I have it at 2 now. Most of my setups here are at 2 other than Dr. Wheelo's Revival, and then the limit ones. This card, I really, really like this card. It's really great in an anger meta, but right now we've been pushing away from just pure anger, and it's a dead card in your hands. So I bumped it down to 2. It might see a place back at 3. It's just been kind of it's been a really good card to me. No matter what, it's always a great card, and it synergizes super well with your 3 and your 4, and your mastery, just in general. You get to also just mess with your opponent's hand, which is awesome. Just a great card. Definitely one that always is going to be kind of dependent on how much I really care about anger decks. But right now it's at a 2. Might make it back up to 3. I suppose we got to pick out the last card set up here. We got Black Android Programming. This card is literally only in here for Unleashed. It increases your banish off the mastery, but otherwise you don't ever get to get anything out of this card other than that. It's just nice that you can drop it on the board and then attach it into combat and then play Unleashed. And now you get to at least 2 levels off Unleashed. That's probably the best part about it. Same thing with Focus. At least Focus kind of has multiple combinations with Sagacious Strike and Sinister Choke, but you can only have one Focus attached, so having multiple of these in the deck doesn't feel too bad. Now we get into the real power cards. Villainous Energy Sphere. Now this card kind of fluctuates in its usefulness, kind of meta dependent, but always, always, always super, super strong card. You hate events. As Wheelo, you just destroy events. Between Revival shutting them off when as an action, you just kill all your opponent's events. Or you got things like Sphere where it's like, oh, maybe they see that you have a Revival on board and they have a stare down hand. Well, they enter on you thinking they can stare down you. Well, guess what? You held Sphere. Bam. Dead. No escape from event hate in this deck. Also, it destroys cards off your opponent's deck, which, again, great, great, great card combo with his 3 and 4, which is what we're trying to do, and just the theme of the deck. Stare down, killing their best card. Don't really need to say more than that. Unleashed, this is one of the key cards in the deck, if not probably the most important card in the deck. This just helps you unlock that super, super powerful level 4. The number 3 is respectable. The 2 has its uses. 1 is purely there to get you to 2, so generally you can at least anger to 2. It's generally where you need things like Unleashed to get off that 2, and that's why you got to also play with your attached cards very carefully, so that if you can get one of them on the table before you drop an Unleashed, if you get to 4, you completely run the show. It's very, very hard, especially if you get to it early mid-game. It's very hard for an opponent to beat you when you're on level 4. You're just milling them so much. Every turn, let's say, if you just only hit the mastery, you knock a card out of their hands, they play an attack, they gotta draw another card, there's 1 card off their deck, then they gotta destroy 1 plus 2 off your Wheelo 4, which increases by, so now they're destroying 3 off their deck, so now they're down 4 cards out of their deck, just purely because you procced a mastery. And then you threw 2 back in your deck, right? You start throwing in a bunch of these cards with destroy effects, and if you start getting Wheelo's Revivals still in your deck, now you're milling. Now it's just you just do absurd amounts of mill, and you're throwing more and more cards back in your deck. It's just awesome. Black Foreshadowing, just kind of a bread and butter mill card. Mill's more based on your opponent's banish zone. Works really good with Black Swipe and the Mastery, just slowly throwing cards in the banish zone. Really, really good card. Gives you stages, which Wheelo is always really just really loves getting stages. Black Taunt. This is one of the big finisher cards. Kind of like Black Analysis, but this is a bit more live most of the game. This card is awesome. This card has 2 different instances of destroy effects for you to modify. The first off, you mill them 1 plus their anger. Well, with Wheelo, once you get up to 3 and 4, you add 1, 2 to that, it gets pretty ridiculous. You can clear someone out for up to 10 cards with this effect on level 4, and then of course you destroy you just destroy any hand consistently that they wanted, if they entered on you. Between this and the Mastery, you just really, really destroy people's game plans. And of course you make them shuffle their hand, draw, proc your Mastery again. So it's just a really, really nice card for this deck. Not as good in necessarily my recent testing, Against a lot of the aggro decks, you're generally going to hold a block before you hold that card. And a lot of these aggro decks are running Anger. I never really hold Taunt if I have a block. I'd rather have the block, personally, most of the time. So I'm not getting as much mileage out of it as I used to because I'm mainly not holding it anymore. But that's just kind of the matchups, you know. That's kind of what the meta's like right now, so. Black Schematics. Used to have this card at 3. It's at 2 right now, mainly because Drill's kind of popped out of the meta. But the biggest thing is that it raises your Anger 2. I want to get more effects like that raise my Anger 2 outright. It's just really, really hard to fit them right now. This is, like I said, this is all of a rebuild up of the list. And I've put about 8 or 9 games on the deck with this new list, and it's done very, very well against physical aggro. For the most part, I can survive, which is what I really need. It's in other matchups, like Ball, Mill, kind of can be a rough matchup for sure. Balls just mainly because you got to mill them out to only balls, and you got to try to finish the game with a Sinister Choke or, you know, one of these live card attacks. But next we have Tug of War. Great card, love this card. I'm always talking about how much I love this card. Usually keep this at least a 2 in the deck. It fluctuates between 1 and 3. It's always in the deck though. Amazing card. You know, just killing allies is awesome. You get like 2 of these in the deck and you don't ever have to worry about an ally deck. Usually ever. Last 2 cards here for events. We got Puzzler. Great card. Great, great, great card. Even without VTP in the meta, it is absolutely awesome. And the best part is that even if it's maybe like not useful in your hand, maybe you drew into it after entering effects, you can always banish it to make you and your opponent destroy 2. Which, you know, when you get on 3 and 4, again, it's money, especially on 4. You banish this card out of your hand to make them mill 4 and you rejuve 2, so the 2 that you knocked off your deck you get back. So otherwise, when entering cancellation, amazing against a lot of matchups like Supreme Kai, Vegeta. Vegeta is one that you definitely have to be scared. That's kind of scared about, or like things like Black Face Off. You can counter with this. That's probably my favorite to counter is Black Face Off because that card really, really hurts this deck. Time is a Warrior's Tool, staple, got a block. When we get over to the attack line, attack line's always kind of fluctuating here, but for first attack, Sinister Choke. Now this card made it in, I'm pretty sure I had it in, yeah, I did have it in for Michigan. Can't take this out. This card does so much work against control matchups, and for ball matchups, it's how you close out the game. But also, so it is a 5-life card critical attack. It does combo with the Black Focus, but your level 2 that you spend a lot of the game on until you see Unleashed has a 2 extra life card modifier on all your attacks. So this is coming in for 7 hot, unpreventable. You combo this all the mill, you just do a lot of unpreventable damage with this deck between the milling and the Sinister Choke. It's awesome. Next we have Playful Punch. Now this card, I currently have it at 3. Always kind of fluctuating on my count of it. You know, I've been testing with it. I do really like it. My biggest issue is a lot of the decks that are physical aggro that aren't necessarily Deborah are running a lot of style attacks right now. You know, Vegeta, if he sequences right, you know, if he doesn't need his level 2 power in a combat, you know, you can always block his level 2, which is nice. My biggest thing is that it's not only a block, but it also has duality as an attack, which works really great at the level 2. It's just, you know, turns into a 5-life card attack on the level 2, lower your opponent's sanguine on gain 5 stages. Really nice. I always play with the number on this. I think I'm going to keep it at 3 for a bit. I've always really kind of enjoyed this card, but it's definitely one that I kind of end up taking out sometimes. Sagacious Strike. This is a new ad. This card's kind of been on the fringe for the longest time, and I finally put it in, and I've been loving it. It is so great against ball, ally matchup. Even Anger, it's nice. But being able to just more safely, between this card, Sinister Choke, the Declarations, more safely play my ball 7 and not worry about it so much. Just knowing that I have this in the deck means, like, okay, if somebody wants to take that ball 7, sure. But if I'm, especially when I get into my higher levels, or even if not, like, if I played a combat right, being able to just take the fucking ball 7 back with this card is awesome. I've really enjoyed this card, and I think it's pretty damn good. Also, you can make it unstoppable to always guarantee the level 3 effect, which if you do end up getting on level 3, what it says here is after you perform a successful attack, destroy top 2 of your opponent's life deck with Rejuvenate 2, which turns into 3 because you increase all your mill by 1, but it has synergy with your level 3 Instigation Strike, being that you can make Sig unstoppable, so just extra little synergy. You don't get that combo off as much. Generally, you are just going straight from 2 to 4. Rarely do I ever, honestly, most time when I get an Unleashed, I'm able to have enough attached cards out that I go 2 to 4, so. But still has a use if you're ever on 3. Next we have the 2 attached cards in the deck. We got Punt and Extreme Blast. Punt, not as good anymore. Used to protect you from, effects like Tandem Blast, but it's in here purely because it's an attached card. It is nice that it's a life card attack. On level 2, it's just 7 life card attack. It's critical attack. You gotta respect that. I've definitely won some games because of that aspect. Same with this Extreme Blast. You don't really play this card as much. It sucks that it got errated to one-time use of combat. It's still worth having in for the attached aspect. It's respectable. A life card attack on 2. Does suck that costs 3. Does suck that also Punt costs 1 because your stages are super important in the stage matchup. Down to the block line here. So we do have Playful Punch and Time as, blocks. But also we got Black Delay. Now this is something that I always fluctuate on. I don't know. I hate playing against this damn card. I play it. It doesn't ever seem too crazy unless I'm against the right matchup. But right now I have it at 2. It's kind of meta. It's very meta-y. Energies Guard. Now this, I like this card a lot. I love this card. This is so good because you have so many ways to just make sure that this card is like a double Omni block. Or sorry, not double, just rather an Omni block. It gives you anger. It can control your opponent's anger. Super, super hot. Love this card. I just love cards that have just a lot of flexibility, and that's a big part of why I like Playful Punch. You got Black Knee Catch. You do a level 1 power, and then your opponent throws a physical attack, and you play this, you've leveled. More 2-anger cards in the deck, the better. I would love to add more, but again, finding space is a little difficult right now, so I guess we'll see with testing. More testing, I suppose. Black Swipe. Awesome card. Probably the best black energy block in the game. Being able to just pick out of my opponent's pile. I wish I could do it more. I wish I had more cards like Black Swipe. But, don't really have the space. So as far as other cards that have been in this deck, one that I can think of right now is Black Invitation. I used to love that card in here. It's not here anymore. Honestly, it's great when you get to 3 and 4, but I'm finding I'm not hitting 3 and 4 as often now that VTP is banned. So cutting it wasn't too hard. It was nice that it had 3 endurance. Made me really tanky, but in its place I got to put things in like Declaration, which have a lot of utility. Help me recycle Ball 3 and help me deal with a lot of the cards that really hurt my deck. As far as cards that hurt this deck the most, Black Searching Technique, so they can pick up my revivals. Black Face Off, because I play a lot of events. Final Flash, Vegeta's Final Flash can be pretty detrimental. Red Restriction. Those cards all can kind of hurt quite a bit. Restriction I can usually kind of tech for. If I know that the deck's running it, I can hold on to Sphere at least. But it's those setups mainly that are a problem. Puzzler is just key in like a Black Madra Vegeta matchup or like a Black Aggro matchup that's running Face Off. I need to see Puzzler and just be really smart with it. It saved me games from just getting my hand, just losing on a single turn because I had draw like 2 events and they have Black Face Off out. This card is always just awesome. I've pulled off some really dirty wins where I'm on level 3 or 4 and I just drop this out of my hand and kill someone. With between that and like another mill effect. But right now the list has gone through a lot of changes over time. But a lot of the core cards, the core cards are going to be like your Stare Down, your Sphere, and your Unleashed, your Foreshadowing, your Taunt, your Puzzler, your Time, your Revival, your Ball 7. Everything else can kind of be played with a bit. You can always play on the numbers. I think Sin Choke is mandatory. It's just too good with level 2, but I've had Black Palm Blast in here before, and I got a handful of games off, and I really did like it, but I didn't make it into this cut. Black Trick Shot's another card. That was a card that I had in here for Michigan. Just not finding myself at the stages usually to play it nowadays. In a lot of these aggro decks, against a lot of these aggro decks, I gotta kind of play other stuff. There's a lot less anger hitness than I'd like, but at the same time, there's not a lot of MPPV decks. Now, when MPPV decks are around, Signal, that goes to 3. Trick Shot comes in here. Even physical aggro decks, I'm smart enough and I can put enough endurance in here while I will survive the physical aggro for a turn where they're not angering. Because a lot of the MPPV-oriented decks don't necessarily do a ton of damage. But definitely cards that I might float around those, like Black Delay, maybe Energized Guard. I really do like that card because it pretty much gives me 6 energy blocks, and if I need it, but we'll see. Playful Punch, honestly, I might cut that and just turn it into more dedicated blocks. Really tempted. It's kind of going to just be more testing and seeing how I feel about it. I do just like that it's an attack. It helps me in control matchups, so I guess we'll see. Yeah, I think schematics going to always fluctuate depending on how much I see drills. But and deflection drill is definitely a card that is a real pain in the ass, but you can definitely set up the turns where you can play around it. It's just really annoying that it can choose for one of your bigger mill effects to just block out, but that's just kind of the nature of the game. So anyway, I think this deck has gotten a lot more board answers from my last iterations. Again, I think there are a few cards that can definitely float in number. Even Absorption Drill could probably honestly get taken out. I could see it leaving. But yeah, hopefully maybe this gives you guys an idea that there are still kind of MPs that can do some fun stuff. I mean, I've done pretty good with this MP before. He definitely is one of those people that suffered from the VTP ban, but he's still pretty fun. He can still pull off some pretty fun wins, and this is a pretty fun list. If you need any help with it, you want to try it out, let me know. Check out the Dr. Wheelo Slayer page. Thanks.